Oh, well, let me comment to 817 because I didn't like the beginning of it. I thought, not sure as this is going the right way. Don't want to put this out there. Hold with it. Let's see what the whole thing says. The whole thing comes to a conclusion that there could be problems in what's going on with me at the minute. Namely, there's well, it looks like a strange obsession from at least some perspectives. He's got to 817 recordings. Are they recordings for himself that will bring benefit? Or was the benefit solely doing the recording? Well, this one alone is making me think at the minute, such that I'm recording about it. That's an interesting phenomenon. There seems to be no limit to such a re-examination and proliferation of recordings that way. There's something of isolation about it, isn't there? I mean, for instance, this doesn't sound actually a very communal thing if no one else reads it. If I'm not affecting anyone else and I'm preoccupied with it, doesn't it sound as though you're on a path of extreme isolation and loneliness? That looks dangerous. I just know from casual observation and experience that that can lead to something that looks anything but attractive to me. I mean, it's something of the background of people that commit suicide, isn't it? Or become so detached from the realities that are upon them that life ends up in termination. You know, the addiction takes over such that poverty reigns, and poverty brings illness and inability to defend yourself from other people's hostility and so forth. Disease, illness. It sounds like rationally one should be on guard against such what we would now term as obsession or addiction. And we would term it as such because it's not supporting your life. And, well, we seem to value living life. What is life? Well, it seems to be, in general, evidenced by movement, creativity, thought, imagination, having goals and achieving them, being happy, especially with the achieving, and sometimes being very unhappy in that we didn't achieve, or not achieving, or goodness, we've achieved something that didn't turn out to be happy after all. And that such experience changes our goals, our expectations, our values, our goals, and the way we choose to continue to life in as far as such options seem to be available to us. So what? Well, so our values are what they are at present, and we can see they are this, at least in part because of what's happened to us in the past. Do you know, it seems to all come down to we want life and we avoid death. Why do we avoid death? After all, it could be super. Yeah, but it might not be. We don't have a certainty about what happens after death. It might be absolutely nothing, in which case that's not attractive in itself, especially if there's anything here that we like. We'd rather stay here and have the liking. Except that staying here also seems to run the risk of having much that we don't have a liking for at present. You know, we don't want pain and suffering and illness and death. We seem to be furnished with a desire for life. Is that from birth itself? Not really. I don't think, at least I assume it's the case that when you're first born, you don't have a concept of, I want to live, I have certain pleasures I wish to pursue. I suspect you have a sort of nothingness. There's just an amazing, or not even amazing universe around you. They're just perceptions. But some of those perceptions cause pain and discomfort. Or you're not even sure as they cause it. You just know you are in pain. You're hungry, say. You're cold. If you don't cry out in such circumstance, and the mum is caring for you, we hope, doesn't know, doesn't have a habit of coming to your rescue, whether she hears you crying out or not, then you've had it. It seems that mums see a baby and just want to embrace. Well, that gives warmth. And if they're in the mummery situation of also producing breast milk, this embrace seems to automatically meet the needs of the child if the child finds such drinking to bring relief to the bad experience they're suffering from if they need food. If they've never, well, do we assume that the baby automatically drinks? Well, my first wife was not able to produce milk, so of course we provided it artificially, and that seemed to solve things. It might not be the ideal, but in the circumstance it was ideal rather than baby die. Goodness. My second wife could produce milk, but baby wouldn't drink. Now that took a rather wonderful midwife, and we were in New Zealand, and yet we came across this midwife, the first one we came across. She was English, which was interesting since we were. She was Christian, since that's what we valued. That was attractive to us as well, and she was extremely helpful. She would come in the middle of the night to help Mum feed the baby, to help baby take to feeding. And I don't know what she did really, but she did all she could to encourage this. And after a few such days and nights, she was successful, and she lived just up the road. Bless her. What a blessing she was. So, if babies survive, there's something of these alternatives. They automatically, perhaps, have an inclination to drink, or to cry out even when they are suffering pain. We hope that's natural too. I want baby to let me know when things are not right. And I want baby to have an inclination to drink, because that will solve the hunger and starvation problem. So we know what the motivation of Mum is if Mum has this maternal drive, which by the grace of God she does seem to have. Or should I say the other way? It seems that the grace of God has her have such. Oh, that's an interesting one. Does the experience of benevolence start you to want to believe in God? Oh, yes. Except in as far as rationality gets in the way and screams at you, but that's impossible. I don't care if it's impossible or not, that's what I want. Yeah, but if it's impossible, you've got a defeat coming, haven't you? That's not good. If it is impossible, I've got a defeat anyway, haven't I? Ah. That's interesting reasoning, isn't it? Let me stop there a sec, I need a rest. Look, are we saying something in the effect that we're going to necessarily, wistfully at least, want God to exist, but rationality may rule it out? We are necessarily going to want discomfort and comfort experiences that drive us to want comfort and not discomfort, that give us purpose in life, which coincide with life continuing. Else we're dead. We pursue things that kill us. If we have a creature that has one or both of these characteristics, then they value life. If we have something that doesn't value life, through rationality or irrationality, then it doesn't exist quite quickly. It stops existing fast. So existence in the material world implies that this being has such motivations, else they're not in the material world very long. Baby died. Oh, how sad, how tragic. Those that are living feel this because they value living. They value their own living, and they find their own, or they suppose that their own living is going to enrich, the living of others is actually could enrich their life. And to the extent that they do have this expectation, they want others to be alive. In other words, they are motivated to care for and keep alive or bring alive children, for instance. You know, I have some fanciful view that it would be nice to have a family. It could go wrong. They could be a nightmare, of course. They could want to kill me, or throw me out of my comfort zone, like Absalom in the story. Life might be better without such children, but I might be in a fix in that I've become very attached to the hope of them turning out right. And in case of the story of King David, his right-hand general comes to his rescue, really. Not that he would have declared or ordered his general to do it, but brings the death of Absalom, that his king might regain the throne and so on. It's a very strange story, isn't it? And I do take it as a story. I'm not interested in whether it's history or not. It's an interesting story. It could be saying something that's of value to us. Bad things happen to us that are, in hindsight, necessary for our continual life and prosperity. Could this be the hand of some wonderful, caring God? Be wonderful if it is, although rather difficult in the transitory to cope with such apparent setbacks that are a great blessing to us. I think loosely the fuzzy picture is the quantum view of thinking, rationality, is that of these indeterminate collective ideals that we have, fuzzy ideals, emerges a sort of impression that the desire for life and the blessings that can come from different lives result in a fuzzy situation where we want a perfect God to exist. And that rationally such may not seem too reliable a hope, but could be a necessary hope to bring fullness of life. And given uncertainty, we can't really reason things out at all reliably. But if I go down this path of belief and hope, is it fruitful? Is it what I feel to be good or bad? I think you would want to find out, wouldn't you? In other words, taste and see. What happens if I pretend? Imagine that there's a perfect God and tend to live accordingly. That he's a God of love and care and kindness, cares for everybody. It sounds like some sort of utopia, as opposed to a God, say, that just loves me and wants me to become more and more rich and powerful and victorious over all the other life on the planet. I look at the world, I see such dictators, and I think, oh my goodness, I don't like the hardship that this implies for all other life, including highly likely me. I don't think that's the way to go. And he may think, my goodness, everyone wants to kill me. This is not quite the utopia I was hoping for. I want true friends. Instead, they just want my downfall to enrich themselves. Oh dear, life's hell. What am I saying here? Well, something of the fuzziness of such quantum thinking emerges, which is not only is it possible that I want a God, I want a particular type of God that perhaps loves all even though I don't. Or the typical religious compromise, which is loves those who are especially like me or like he makes me and rescues me too. And we don't really care about the rest because, well, we've got enough friendship and help and we're on the good side. Now, that's what I think of as bad religion. Bad from my point of view in that it still leaves an enormous number of people out. And you could say selfishly, I might be one of those people. I don't want that to happen. You know, I didn't quite measure up to passing the exam, so I failed and got thrown on the dust heap. Looks hazardous, that sort of God. I prefer the sort of God that loves everyone and somehow it will all be hunky-dory in the end, you know. Wonderful. Everybody happy. In the happy land of everything being good. Well, my experience is that that doesn't happen in this world. Oh, well, but it could happen in some wonderful world to come, couldn't it? Yes, but apart from me wanting it to happen, I can't see that it's likely to happen. Oh, that's because of your very negative experience so far, but hey, look on the bright side. You do exist. You have come through to the dizzy age of 17 or 87, you know, or 107, and he's provided for you every moment of life to this point. Well, apart from, you know, 11 minutes of near-death experience, perhaps, if you're one of these people that died and was resuscitated. Mind you, they come back and they say, no, it was near life. I met this wonderful being, you know, God or Jesus or saint someone or other or angels or auntie, and there was such love there that it's a wonderful place, it's real life. It wasn't near death, it was near life. However, there may be others who, and there do seem to be a few, that experienced sheer hell and were terrified when they woke up. You know, didn't have a happy ending, perhaps, in the experience, where they contrasted it and then found, you know, Jesus who rescued them, and now they know that there is this possibility of eternal glory if they're a good boy. So they go out and be wonderful people as a consequence of this near-death experience. And it would be right then to say it was near death because I, you know, first of all thought I was going to hell and that was frightening and ghastly. And then, you know, Jesus rescued me or something like that. Well, that just means we don't know how to label such experiences if such variety exists. We're very clear many of them have wonderful experiences of meeting the equivalent of God who is wonderfully loving and everything is hunky-dory. So we shouldn't call it near death, we call it near life for such people at least. In fact, it's following the Jesus story, isn't it? If you would enter into life, keep the commandments. You mean I'm not living already? I'm a rich man. I mean, I've got fullness of life, haven't I? No, that's why you're talking to me. You want life eternal. And if you want treasure in heaven, well, sell all you have, give to the poor. Why? Presumably because in some sense I'm saying, such will bring the joy that you seek. You're joking. It looks like a nightmare. I don't want to live in poverty like these people here around us. Well, you can't come that way then, can you? No. And, if you finish a story, you might want to say something like, you can only come that way if you lose your riches through some disaster. Bankruptcy in the modern world. Or terminal illness hanging over you that you know of. Or some disaster that makes you, by contrast, long for riches in heaven, and suddenly your wealth doesn't mean anything. Life is everything to you. You give all your wealth just to continue living. We'll say, well, yes, but it'd be very sad if the continual living means no money and I'm living in desperate poverty like these people. It's got to be really bad for you to find that a good option, eh? Yes. Oh dear, how hard it is for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. Harder than for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. Does he mean literally, or does he mean the camel that unloads the baggage on his back in order to get through the narrow gate? Narrow is the way that leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Well, this doesn't sound like a terribly able and good God if that's the only route in. Couldn't he have arranged things rather more generously, rather more feasibly from our sad point of view? And so you hope for a better God than the religion is bringing you. You might turn away from the religion to believe in a more wonderful God, or you might in despair turn away from the religion and believe in no God. Does that mean you believe in death is inevitable and bad, in that it's not life and it's not a lovely heaven? That seems to fit the definition of secularity, doesn't it? At least religion has some sort of hope, typically. Well, unless it also condemns you to something that gives you no hope. In other words, there could be bad religions. You're born in the wrong family, therefore you're destined for damnation. Or you're born with the wrong karma, and therefore you're going to have a really rough ride in this life and die even possibly without hope of a better life. Oh, I don't think I want to hope for those things. I value life. And in a sense, I value life for all. If it were possible, and with my God, perhaps it is possible. Well, I'm going to hope, and if I can't see it as being here, I'm going to hope it's in something that's not here and somewhere else, and therefore an afterlife experience of what we more loosely call heaven. Look, it's fuzzy quantum thinking, but perhaps it has to be when you're in a world of uncertainty. 'uncertainty. 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 ' perhaps this is the loveliness of uncertainty, in that quantum thinking is the answer. I'm using this phrase, of course, because there's a current popularity of perhaps how computers can move into a new age of quantum computers, where it's not so much simple logic, there's probability type situation of this could possibly be so and this could also possibly be so. In some circumstances they are consistent with each other. In some such thing they would not be consistent. And we're not sure what happens if that's the case. But we are clear that the notion of probability is not in some sense objective. It's subjective from our point of view. The probability given the information we have is such and such, and the distribution of possible outcomes is such and such. And I don't know which one it's going to be, because I am facing an uncertainty, if you like, a lack of knowledge of the truth of the matter, and have to reason accordingly in such circumstance. In other words, we're saying that given uncertainty, quantum rationality is more of a probable, useful rationality than simplistic certainty rationality of known relationships. We have a fuzzy idea of what the relationship is. It's approximate, it's variable. We're not sure which one we've got. This could be our reality of experience, not necessarily our reality of objective fact. But we suspect something about objective fact has some relationship to our experience, our probabilistic situation. Or turn it round another way, if thoughts and something of thought is our real being, the life we're experiencing is a thought life. Now, a thought life is something that can be changed by our thoughts. Goodness, we could be master of the show and not know it. You know, the magician that says, be turned into light, and it is light. Be moved to the sea, and the mountain moves. And peculiarly, that's what's in the Jesus story. Or at least it's alluded to. Goodness gracious, isn't hope and the life of faith exactly that? That if you don't have hope and the right faith, you bring death upon yourself. And I'm come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. What sort of life? That's a consequence of there being a super God who loves you. Oh, how nice, that's an attractive view. Is it worth pursuing, given my experience in life to date? Well, I'm motivated to find such. I'm not sure my view is such that I can accept that I have found such, or that such is some reality, a possibility open to me. And you read the Jesus story, or something like it, the Buddha story or something, and you flirt with the idea to begin with of this being a reality. It's a fantasy, it's a story. But because of your experience of the story, it may become very attractive to you. In other words, it gives you life and hope where it was not. What a fantastic story then. Is the imaginative story a way of rescuing you from lack of hope, lack of faith? Oh, it certainly gives you a longing for such, if only, I was going to be the prince that wins the battle and the maiden and lives happily ever after in my kingdom. That would be nice. Thinks the child. So we have nice fairy stories, ideally. In fact, we bring up the child in a nice world. Well, we don't really want the child to embrace the fact that Granddad's dying. What do we do, love? Do we say that Granddad won't be with us much longer? He's going to heaven, love. Oh, what's heaven? I don't know. I haven't thought about it enough. Well, it's a good place anyway. It's where we all go when we die. In other words, we'll give him a fairy story if necessary to keep his hopes up, because we want him to embrace and enjoy life and value it, else he'll be dead. So we do all we can to do that, even though we're teaching him fairy stories. But we're teaching him fairy stories of the ideal, not where the hero gets slain and the wicked witch reigns forevermore. I mean, that's not a good story. I don't want you teaching my kids that. You might, if you're of a narrow Christian bent, of course, not want any story. Only the great story of the Word of God. And, you're teaching them Jesus from the beginning, which I suppose was my first period of being a dad with my first son. I don't want any fairy stories. I want reality, the reality of the Bible. Well, not all of it. I wasn't daft. I mean, there were certain bits of the Bible I wasn't keen on. Genocide of various peoples and judgment and, drowning all the world but 8 people and a few animals. That didn't grab me at all. I wasn't really keen to teach that bit of the Bible. Yeah, good. Oh, I've gone on far too long. It's 38 minutes. I'm going to stop. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.